I never thought I would tell this story. Not because I'm ashamed, though maybe I should be, but because putting it into words makes it feel more real. And some things are easier to carry in silence. It started on a quiet evening. One of those evenings where everything feels too still, like the calm before a storm you didn't see coming. She sat across from me at the dinner table. Her eyes didn't meet mine. She just moved food around on her plate, pretending to be engaged, pretending everything was normal. But I could feel it. You know when something inside you starts to crack, even before it breaks? That was me sitting there, smiling like a fool, pretending I didn't see the distance growing in her. We used to be in sync. Her laughter, the way she'd lean into me when she was tired, the small glances from across the room, they all meant something. They made me feel like I belonged somewhere. But something changed. I started noticing the late-night texts. The sudden urge to go out for a walk, even though she hated the cold. The way her phone screen always faced down, her smile a little too forced when I'd walk into the room. I told myself I was paranoid. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. I trusted her. Or maybe, I just didn't want to lose her. One night, I waited. She said she was going out with friends. I nodded. Said nothing. But I followed. I parked far enough to not be seen. And there she was. Waiting. Not for a friend, but for him. I didn't know who he was. Just some guy with confidence written all over his stride. They hugged like they've done it 100 times before. Her body melted into his. I didn't confront her. Not then. I drove back home, sat in the dark living room, and just existed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the wall and let the weight of everything settle on my chest like cement. When she came home hours later, I kissed her on the forehead. She smelled like a different cologne. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and thought about every moment that brought us here. Every time I ignored my instincts. Every sign I brushed off because I loved her too much to believe she'd do that to me. But she did. And I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was numb. Detached. Like someone else was living my life and I was just watching it fall apart from the sidelines. The next few days were the hardest. Pretending nothing happened. Acting like everything was fine. Making her coffee in the morning. Asking about her day. Smiling when I wanted to scream. But deep down, something inside me was shifting. I started keeping track. Notes. Details. Where she went. Who she was with. I wasn't planning revenge. Not then. I just needed to know the truth. Fully. No more lies. No more doubts. What I found broke me in ways I can't fully explain. It wasn't just one guy. It was two. Maybe more. Different names. Different excuses. Different lies. And yet, the same pattern. The same betrayal. She wasn't unhappy. She was just careless. And I had become invisible to her. I remember the day she left like it was carved into my bones. The silence in the apartment felt too loud. Her scent still lingered on the pillow. I sat there, on the edge of the bed, holding a coffee cup that had gone cold an hour ago. My phone was silent. No calls. No messages. No second thoughts from her. Just emptiness. Like a wound that refused to close. I kept telling myself it was just a phase. That she'd come back. That this was all some dramatic episode she'd regret in a few days. But deep down I knew. She had already left me long before her body walked out that door. There had been signs, of course. The sudden late nights. The guarded phone. The absent mind during conversations. But I was too in love, or too scared to ask. I didn't want to face the possibility that the woman I gave my heart to had already handed hers to someone else. I remember sitting in our favorite diner weeks before it all fell apart. She was staring out the window, stirring her coffee absently, as if I wasn't even there. I said something, I don't even remember what, but she didn't laugh the way she used to. Her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. I had lost her long before I realized it. But I stayed. I held on. I cooked her favorite meals. I kissed her goodnight even when she turned away. I bought her flowers on Tuesdays just to see if it would spark something. Anything. It didn't. One night, I came home early. Her keys weren't on the table. Her coat wasn't by the door. I waited. An hour passed. Then another. She finally walked in, makeup smudged, her eyes a mix of guilt and defiance. She didn't lie. She didn't need to. The silence between us screamed the truth. I asked her if there was someone else. She nodded. No words. Just a nod. That was the moment I broke. Not because she cheated, but because I realized I wasn't enough. All the love I gave, all the effort, all the nights I spent dreaming of a future with her, none of it mattered. She needed something else. Someone else. And I was left trying to figure out who I was without her. I spent a long time trying to figure out where I missed the moment. What was the turning point? I mean, it started out like a fairy tale. Her laugh. Her voice. Those evenings when we could be silent and still understand each other. She could just lay her head on my shoulder, and in that moment, it was like the world stopped. It seemed like forever. But I guess forever is temporary. She often asked, "Will you ever fall out of love with me?" I laughed. Is that possible? I realize now how subtle she felt. Something was already crackling inside her. Maybe she was looking for validation. Or maybe she was looking for an excuse. There were times when I'd walk into the room and she'd abruptly hide her phone. She'd say she was just flipping through her feed. I believed. I wanted to believe. Because the truth was scary. I started waking up at night. Looking up at the ceiling. Listening to her breathing next to me. And in those moments, I felt her breathing become alien. Not mine. Not what I was used to. We lived near each other, but not together anymore. When she'd go out, I'd catch myself thinking, what if she's going to him? But every time I'd push it away. Because I didn't want to be the one who didn't trust. You shouldn't. One day, I noticed she was wearing someone else's scent. A man's perfume. She said it was from a friend. I nodded, but inside me, everything turned upside down. A man was screaming inside, still hoping it was a mistake. That it was just a coincidence. That she wouldn't betray. Sometimes she got tired. Very tired. But not from work. It was living with me. I saw it. I saw her eyes go blank. I saw her smile become rare. I tried to rekindle the fire. I gave her flowers. I spontaneously asked her to a cafe. To the movies. But it was all for nothing. She was already gone. In my mind. I remember the day she stayed out late. She came home, eyes downcast. I looked at her and knew, she just wasn't alone. I didn't ask questions. Because I was afraid to hear what I already knew. That night I just said, "Do you want to leave?" She was silent. Then she said, "I don't know." And that "I don't know" turned out to be the loudest yes. I began to realize how every small thing I overlooked became a wedge between us. I used to think love was about grand gestures, about being there when it mattered. But I missed the everyday things. The silence after a long day. The look in her eyes when she was thinking something and hoped I'd ask. I was present, but I wasn't there. Not really. And in that space I left empty, he stepped in. He noticed the details I had long forgotten. The way she liked her coffee. The songs she played on repeat when she was anxious. He filled the silence I ignored. I don't even blame him. I blame myself for giving up the little things that kept us connected. Sometimes I catch myself wondering, was it love between them, or just timing? Was she lonely, or just tired of being invisible? I'll never know, and maybe it doesn't even matter now. The betrayal wasn't just in what she did, it was in how easily she slipped into someone else's rhythm. How seamlessly she left behind the life we built. I remember sitting alone in our living room, the day after she left. Everything was still, untouched, like a crime scene. Her cup on the counter, her scent on the pillow, the echo of her laughter now haunting. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I was numb. Like grief had frozen inside me. But eventually, numbness gave way to questions. What could I have done differently? Where did I lose her? Or worse, did I ever really have her? I began retracing every step, every conversation, every night we spent apart in the same bed. I kept hearing her voice in my head. Not the one from our fights, the gentle one, the one from better days. It hurt more than the silence. I remember one night clearly. It was late, and I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the street lamp outside. I heard her breathing beside me, steady, calm, but distant. I reached out, but she turned away. That small movement felt like a door slamming shut. I wanted to ask her what was wrong. To tell her I was there, that I still loved her. But the words got stuck. Because I knew she wouldn't answer me honestly. She was retreating, building walls higher than I could climb. That was the moment I started feeling invisible. Like I was fading away in the place I called home. I tried talking to her about it. Asked if she was unhappy. If there was someone else. She dodged the questions or say things that made me doubt myself. "You're imagining things," she'd say. But the feeling in my gut said otherwise. I kept hoping it was just stress. A rough patch. That we could fix it. But every day the distance grew. One evening, after another silent dinner, she looked at me with eyes I barely recognized. "I don't know if I love you anymore," she said softly. My heart stopped. It wasn't a fight, not an argument, just a quiet truth that tore through me. I wanted to beg her to stay, to fight for us. But all I could do was nod and swallow the pain. For months after that, we lived like strangers. Sharing space but not lives. Smiling in public, silent at home. I was desperate for a sign that she still cared, but there was nothing. Just a growing void. Then came the night I made the worst mistake of my life. I was broken. Alone. And when she wasn't there, I looked for comfort elsewhere. Someone who listened. Someone who cared. Someone who didn't turn away. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a moment of rebellion. It was a moment of sheer loneliness. And the worst part is, it was someone we both knew. When she found out, the anger in her voice broke me again. She said I betrayed her. That I ruined everything. And maybe she's right. But I still ask myself, was it betrayal? Or was it the collapse of something that was already falling apart? After she found out, the silence between us became unbearable. It wasn't just the words she said, though they cut deep. It was the way she looked at me, like I was a stranger, like the man she once loved had disappeared overnight. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to understand how it all fell apart. I thought about every smile, every touch, every promise. I wondered when the cracks started, and how I missed them. Was I selfish? Maybe duh. Was I weak? Probably duh. But more than anything, I was lost. I never wanted to hurt her. Not once. I still care about her deeply. And maybe that's what makes this so painful, knowing I was the one who broke what we had. I kept asking myself, did she ever love me the way I loved her? Or was I just holding on to a memory? Sometimes, I wish I could go back. Fix the things I ignored. Tell her how much she meant to me before it was too late. But life doesn't work like that. Now I live with this weight, the guilt, the regret, the loneliness. I can't sleep, I can't think straight. The past haunts me, and the future feels uncertain. I don't know if I'm a cheater or a man who lost his way in a painful, confusing moment. Maybe I'm both. All I know is that I'm still here. Still hoping for answers. Still wondering if there's a chance to heal, for both of us.